In the quaint and serene hamlet of Willowbrook, ensconced deep within the bosom of the ancient whispering woods, there existed a disquieting hush that descended upon the landscape as the cloak of night fell, a silence pregnant with anticipation, teeming with eerie enigmas. The lunar orb hung precariously low in the vast expanse of the night sky, its feeble light casting elongated spectral shadows that cavorted and contorted, seemingly imbued with a life of their own, in the inky abyss. While the majority of the townsfolk succumbed to the blissful embrace of nocturnal oblivion, one hapless denizen found sleep to be an elusive chimera, a phantom that danced tantalizingly, just beyond her grasp. Within the confines of a weathered, time-worn abode situated precariously on the periphery of town, a woman christened Amelia lay ensconced in her bed, her eyes wide open, unyielding to the siren song of sleep. The clock on her nightstand, a relentless sentinel in the ephemeral hours of the night, intoned the passage of time in a monotonous cadence, its rhythm resonating through the empty chambers of the house. Amelia's insomnia, a relentless specter that had plagued her existence for countless weeks, left her languishing in a state of perpetual exhaustion and trepidation. As the night inexorably unfolded, her mind became a battleground, a theater of war where reality intermingled with fevered dreams, birthing twisted phantasms and disconcerting reveries that sent icy tendrils of dread snaking down her spine. Compelled by the unbearable weight of silence, Amelia, a captive to her insomniac musings, embarked on a tentative descent down the creaking, gnarled staircase, her footsteps reverberating through the hollow emptiness of the domicile. The impenetrable darkness outside pressed its invisible weight against the window panes, an intangible force seemingly striving to breach the sanctity of her home. In the confines of the kitchen, she hesitantly flicked on the dim, flickering overhead light, bathing the room in a sickly, jaundiced glow that cast grotesque, elongated silhouettes upon the walls. Her nimble fingers rifled through the contents of the cabinets, seeking solace in a late-night reprieve. Suddenly, an inexplicable chill seized her, racking her body with involuntary shudders. Her eyes darted frenetically, as if in search of unseen malevolence lurking within the obsidian shroud of the room. Just as she was poised to dismiss her mounting apprehension as a mere figment of her paranoid imagination, a soft, disembodied whisper, devoid of corporeal presence, slithered into the air. "Amelia," it hissed, its syllables infused with an intangible, nameless terror that wormed its way into the very core of her being. In an instant, her heart leaped in her chest, her eyes widening in paralyzing dread. She whirled around, desperately scanning the empty expanse of the room for the elusive source of the haunting utterance, but the ethereal speaker eluded her grasp. The whisper returned, its spectral voice escalating in volume, reverberating through the walls of the house like a cacophonous choir of the damned. "Amelia, I am cognizant of your wakefulness. Your thoughts reverberate within the vast expanse of my consciousness. I can taste the acrid tang of your fear." The words, a symphony of malevolence, emanated from all directions, enveloping her in a sinister embrace. Amelia, succumbing to an overwhelming sense of dread, clutched her ears in a futile attempt to staunch the flow of haunting syllables that seeped insidiously into the very marrow of her bones, permeating her essence with a profound, all-consuming terror. Driven to the precipice of sanity by the unrelenting torment, Amelia fled the kitchen, her feet carrying her in frenzied haste up the staircase to the sanctuary of her bedroom. She slammed the door shut, as if seeking refuge from the relentless onslaught that assailed her senses. Yet the voice, like a malignant specter, persisted, weaving its way through the minuscule cracks in the door, insinuating its tendrils of dread into the sanctum of her solitude. With trembling hands, Amelia grasped her phone, her lifeline to the outside world, and dialed the number of the local clergyman, Father Thomas, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. As she recounted the horrifying saga that had unfolded within the confines of her home, his voice crackled with genuine concern on the other end of the line. He implored her to remain composed, promising to hasten to her aid and perform a cleansing ritual, a desperate gambit to exorcise the malevolent entity that had ensnared her. As Amelia awaited the arrival of her would-be savior, the voice grew in intensity and audacity, its words assuming a tone of mocking derision. "You cannot evade my clutches, Amelia. I am omnipresent, a shadow that lurks in the recesses of your consciousness." The voice, like a venomous serpent, slithered through the very fabric of her being, inundating her psyche with a suffocating, bone-chilling fear. Upon his arrival, Father Thomas wasted no time in preparing for the ritual, his demeanor a testament to unwavering resolve in the face of the supernatural. He intoned ancient prayers, his voice resonating with a divine cadence as he liberally sprinkled holy water throughout the house, a sanctified balm against the encroaching malevolence. Yet the voice, undeterred by the sacred rites, grew stronger, its utterances swelling into a cacophony of torment that reverberated within the walls of the house, imbuing the very air with an electric tension. In a final, desperate gambit to expel the malignant force that held Amelia captive, Father Thomas, his crucifix raised high, bellowed the words of exorcism with a fervor that shook the very foundations of the house. The atmosphere crackled with an unnatural energy, and for a fleeting moment, it appeared as though the encroaching darkness had receded. However, the reprieve was ephemeral, the voice resurging with renewed vigor, its taunting laughter echoing through the timbers of the house. Amelia's sanity teetered precariously on the precipice, her fragile psyche unraveling under the relentless assault of the disembodied voice, its words gnawing at her consciousness like a swarm of ravenous locusts. In a final, desperate attempt to elude the nightmare that had ensnared her, she fled the confines of her home, sprinting heedlessly through the labyrinthine woods, her lungs gasping for air in ragged, labored breaths. The moon, a ghostly sentinel in the nocturnal firmament, cast an eerie luminescence upon the forest floor as Amelia stumbled over gnarled roots and jagged rocks, her mind consumed by abject terror. The voice, a relentless pursuer, taunted her with its spectral laughter, the sound weaving its way through the towering sentinels of the forest. In the obscure, tranquil enclave of Ravenswood, an extraordinary night unfurled, shrouded in an enigmatic ambiance. The atmosphere hung heavy with an unsettling stillness. A mysterious fog snaked its way through the winding alleys. The moon, a spectral orb, dangled low in the vast expanse, casting elongated, contorted shadows upon the uneven cobblestone pathways. Inside an ostensibly mundane dwelling, a man named Jonathan lay ensnared in the clutches of insomnia, his eyes devoured by the profound darkness that enveloped him. Sleep, an elusive lover, had abandoned him entirely, leaving his mind to wrestle with the profound mysteries of the night. At the stroke of midnight, an ominous sensation enveloped Jonathan. He perceived the presence of unseen eyes, as if ethereal gazes bore into the very core of his being. He endeavored to dismiss this eerie feeling, attributing it to the delusions spawned by his sleep-deprived psyche. Yet, an undeniable intuition whispered that something far more sinister lurked in the shadows, beyond the reach of reason. Unable to endure the oppressive silence any longer, Jonathan embarked on a nocturnal odyssey, craving solace from his restless musings. Stepping into the chilling night, the fog clung to his skin like spectral fingers, rendering the familiar town surreal, a distorted semblance of reality. The dwellings, once comforting, now loomed over him like ancient sentinels, their windows aglow with an otherworldly luminescence. Jonathan meandered aimlessly through the deserted thoroughfares, his footfalls reverberating in the profound stillness. Abruptly, a faint whisper, carried on the breeze, reached his ears. It was a voice, soft and nearly inaudible, yet it sent icy tendrils down his spine. Compelled by curiosity, despite the fear constricting his heart, he trailed the sound, venturing further into the enigma that enveloped Ravenswood. The whisper guided him to the town's long-forgotten mansion, a decaying relic of ages past. The mansion, steeped in tales of hauntings and spectral apparitions, echoed with the ghosts of its former inhabitants. Jonathan hesitated briefly before mustering the courage to cross the threshold. The door groaned open, granting him ingress into the abyssal depths within, his flashlight flickering as if in protest against the encroaching darkness. As he traversed the mansion's shadowy recesses, Jonathan was overcome by an overwhelming sense of foreboding. The air was laden with the scent of decay, the walls throbbing with a malevolent energy. He stumbled upon a chamber shrouded in obsidian darkness, its door ajar, beckoning him forward. Succumbing to curiosity, he nudged the door ajar, finding himself in a room adorned with arcane, ghastly artifacts. In the room's epicenter stood an anomalous mirror, its surface tarnished by the relentless passage of time. As Jonathan peered into its depths, he beheld a reflection not his own. The mirror projected a twisted, nightmarish version of Ravenswood, engulfed in raging flames, its serene streets devoured by anarchy and devastation. A blood-curdling scream shattered the silence, jolting Jonathan from his reverie. He turned to behold a specter, a woman clad in tattered Victorian garb, standing in the doorway. Her eyes glowed with a spectral fervor, her voice resonating with a melancholic lament. She spoke of a curse that had ensnared Ravenswood, a curse born from a heinous injustice committed centuries ago. The woman beseeched Jonathan to sever the curse, to emancipate the town from its eternal anguish. With trembling hands, he acquiesced, his determination unwavering in the face of the supernatural. Together, they delved into the town's shadowy annals, unearthing a saga of betrayal, retribution, and restless phantoms. As they labored to unravel the enigma, Jonathan's insomnia deepened, his thoughts besieged by macabre nightmares and spectral visions. The demarcation between reality and the supernatural blurred, prompting him to question his own sanity. Yet he persisted, propelled by an indomitable will to liberate Ravenswood and its tormented spirits. The town metamorphosed into a battleground where the forces of darkness clashed with the flickering candlelight of hope. Jonathan confronted abominable horrors, facing vengeful apparitions and malevolent entities, each encounter fortifying his resolve. With every confrontation, he grew stronger, his mettle unyielding in the face of terror. Finally, after what felt like an interminable eon, Jonathan unearthed the key to shattering the curse. It demanded a sacrificial act, a selfless gesture that would absolve the town of its sins. Guided by the ghostly woman, he performed the ritual, his heart drumming in his chest as ancient energies enshrouded him. In that ephemeral moment, Ravenswood was bathed in a blinding radiance, the darkness dissipating like ephemeral smoke. The curse shattered, and the spirits that had haunted the town found solace at last. Jonathan, wearied and battered, observed as the town was restored to its former glory, the fog lifting and the sun ascending on a new day. As the initial rays of sunlight pierced the gloom, Jonathan experienced an overwhelming surge of relief. The burden of the curse lifted from his shoulders, and he realized he had been part of something extraordinary. The town, once a breeding ground for nightmares, now stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to human tenacity in the face of unimaginable horrors. With a profound sigh, Jonathan retraced his steps to his abode, his body and mind finally succumbing to the fatigue that had plagued him for so long. As he succumbed to the embrace of slumber, he remained blissfully unaware that Ravenswood would eternally remember the valiant soul who had emancipated them from the abyss. Jonathan's name would echo through the ages, a tale of bravery and determination inspiring generations, and thus the saga of that fateful night, born from insomnia and haunted by nightmares, reached its denouement. Yet, the specters of the past lingered in the shadows, a poignant reminder of the harrowing odyssey that led to the town's redemption. In the hearts of those privy to the tale, Jonathan's courage remained a beacon of hope in the face of the unknown. As the world transitioned into a new day, Ravenswood stood as a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a sanctuary where nightmares had been vanquished and the dawn had triumphed over the darkest of nights. In the heart of the quaint and seemingly peaceful town of Willowbrook, nestled amidst the enigmatic tapestry of the night sky, adorned with a myriad of twinkling stars, there loomed an inexplicable and sinister presence, its essence shrouded in the enigmatic silence that wrapped the town in an eerie embrace. It was a night like no other, where the town, usually buzzing with the hum of nocturnal life, found itself veiled in an unsettling quietude, pierced occasionally by the haunting rustle of leaves swaying in the icy tendrils of the wind. The moon, normally a beacon of celestial serenity, was obscured by thick, ominous clouds that conspired to cloak the night in a profound darkness, broken only by feeble beams of light that filtered through the obsidian tapestry, casting an unearthly glow upon the desolate streets. Amidst this surreal backdrop, in a charming yet somewhat decrepit abode situated on the outskirts of the town, resided Emily, a young woman ensnared by the relentless clutches of insomnia. In the cocoon of her dimly lit room, the relentless ticking of the clock on her nightstand reverberated through the air, amplifying her overwhelming sense of solitude. Restlessness, akin to a relentless tempest, had become her steadfast companion, its suffocating tendrils entwining her thoughts in an inescapable grip, refusing to yield to the soothing embrace of slumber. Her once inviting sanctuary was now a chamber of shadows, where elongated silhouettes danced menacingly upon the walls, their ghostly movements mirroring the tumultuous chaos within Emily's restless mind. As the night progressed, Emily found herself plagued by an uncanny sensation, an unshakable feeling that unseen eyes, mysterious and malevolent, were fixated upon her every move. Rationality tried to dismiss it as a mere illusion, a creation of her wearied mind. Yet an inexplicable unease settled in the pit of her stomach, its weight growing heavier with each passing moment. Unable to bear the oppressive atmosphere any longer, she succumbed to the impulse that urged her to escape the confines of her room, seeking solace in the murky depths of the house that surrounded her. With each step down the creaky stairs, Emily descended into the chilling embrace of the living room, its darkness pregnant with an aroma she could not quite decipher, a peculiar amalgamation of mildew and something far more ominous, lurking in the air like an unspoken omen. The ancient floorboards beneath her feet groaned in mournful despair as she traversed the room, their anguished cries reverberating through the empty expanse of the house. A sudden and violent gust of wind assaulted the windows, eliciting a sharp gasp from Emily, her heart momentarily suspended in her chest. Approaching the window with trepidation, she peered into the abyssal night, only to be met with a sight that paralyzed her very soul. At the edge of the dense forest which bordered her property stood a shadowy figure, its form obscured by tattered robes that clung to it like the remnants of a long-forgotten nightmare. Its eyes, aglow with an unnatural luminescence, bore into Emily with a malevolent intensity that sent a cascade of shivers down her spine. Unable to tear her gaze away from the sinister apparition, Emily stumbled backward, her mind drowning in a sea of terror. The figure, now closer, seemed to glide towards the house with an eerie grace, defying the laws of nature and reason. Panic-stricken, Emily fled to the safety of her room, her trembling hands fumbling to lock the door behind her. Huddled in the corner of her room, she clutched her blankets with a desperate fervor, using them as a feeble shield against the encroaching darkness that seemed to seep through the walls like a malevolent specter. The night grew colder, the wind outside howling like a chorus of ravenous wolves, its mournful symphony intertwining with the cacophony of Emily's fear. The oppressive presence, permeating the very fabric of the house, enveloped her in a suffocating embrace, its malevolence palpable in the air. Whispers, haunting and unintelligible, danced around her ears like icy tendrils, their frigid touch sending shivers down her spine. In the abyss of her terror, Emily's mind conjured images of ancient curses and vengeful spirits, of long-forgotten rituals and the unfathomable darkness that lay beyond the realm of the living. Convinced that an unspeakable malevolence had been awakened, drawn to her vulnerability like a ravenous predator, she found herself ensnared in a nightmare that transcended the boundaries of reason and reality. With the gradual approach of dawn, the sinister presence began to recede, its tendrils retracting into the depths of the forest as if it had never existed. Emily, trembling and broken, watched with wide-eyed horror as the first rays of morning light pierced the darkness, banishing the phantoms of the night to the recesses of memory. Exhausted and traumatized, Emily vowed to seal her lips in silence, her trembling voice never to utter the horrors she had witnessed. Haunted by the memory of that fateful night, she became a mere shadow of her former self, forever scarred by the terrifying ordeal that insomnia had wrought upon her fragile mind. Meanwhile, the oblivious town of Willowbrook returned to its peaceful slumber, blissfully ignorant of the unspeakable horrors that lurked in the shadows, patiently waiting for the next sleepless soul to cross its nefarious path. In the quaint, serene enclave of Willowbrook, there existed an enigmatic dwelling at the obscure terminus of Elm Street, a house that had languished in a state of desolation for countless decades. Its time-worn facade bore witness to the ravages of time, its windows reduced to mere shards, and its roof bowed beneath the weighty burden of years gone by. Whispers wafted through the air, tales woven with threads of secrecy, of enigmatic murmurings in the stillness of nocturnal hours. Most, quick to dismiss these narratives as mere figments of collective imagination, failed to perceive the profound depths of the enigma that shrouded this forsaken abode. But those intrepid souls who dared to venture near, their lives were forever marked, irrevocably changed. One fateful night, when the silvery crescent moon hung low, casting an ethereal glow upon the cobblestone pathways of Willowbrook, Sarah, a restless insomniac, found herself ensnared in the clutches of wakefulness. Tossed upon her bed by the tempestuous currents of her thoughts, she succumbed to an inexplicable compulsion, drawing her toward the abandoned relic on Elm Street. The town lay cloaked in an uncanny hush, with only the haunting echo of her footfalls reverberating through the labyrinthine alleys. Intriguingly, Sarah sensed an irresistible force tugging at her, luring her closer to the forsaken manor that stood before her, an embodiment of decay and mystery. Despite the cacophony of alarm bells ringing within the recesses of her mind, she succumbed to the allure, crossing the threshold of the decaying entryway. The door groaned ominously, a spectral invitation extended to her, and curiosity, that ancient vice of humanity, proved insurmountable. Once within, the air hung heavy with the weight of eons, saturated with the essence of dust and decay. Sarah's footfalls reverberated like ghostly whispers as she ventured deeper into the Stygian depths of the edifice. Each room, shrouded in an impenetrable darkness, concealed its own secrets, secrets that beckoned her further into the abyss. In one forsaken chamber, her gaze fell upon an ancient tome, its parchment yellowed and brittle with the passage of centuries. As she perused its pages, a chilling narrative unfurled before her eyes, a tale of a family ensnared in the tendrils of the occult. This family, it seemed, had delved into forbidden realms, weaving rituals that beckoned forth entities from dimensions beyond mortal ken. One ill-fated night, these incantations had spiraled into cataclysmic chaos, birthing a malevolent specter that devoured the family whole, ensnaring their souls within the very fabric of the house. The diary's ink bled with warnings of the spirit's insatiable hunger, its craving for unsuspecting souls, drawing them into its nefarious clutches. Abruptly, Sarah discerned a faint murmur, a spectral whisper barely audible amidst the symphony of her racing heart. "Flee this accursed place," it implored, sending a shiver coursing down her spine. Unperturbed, she continued her odyssey through the diabolic chronicle, ensnared by its macabre allure. As the night wore on, the house seemed to awaken, its timbers groaning with spectral lamentations, distant cries intertwining with ethereal whispers. Shadows pirouetted upon the walls, contorting into grotesque tableaus, as though the very fabric of reality had unraveled. The temperature plummeted, each exhalation crystallizing into frosty tendrils in the glacial void. In her terror, Sarah endeavored to escape, yet the door, an implacable sentinel, slammed shut with a resounding finality, ensnaring her within the Stygian embrace. Desperation clawed at her, urging her to seek sanctuary, but the house, a cunning chameleon, shifted its dimensions, rendering her attempts futile, confounding her senses. The malevolent spirit, attuned to her fear, swelled in strength, its spectral tendrils infiltrating every crevice, every recess of the house. It whispered promises of unparalleled horrors, a cacophony that rent her sanity asunder, eroding her willpower. Sarah, ensnared in the web of her insomnia-fueled exhaustion, succumbed to the spirit's subtle manipulations, her thoughts and emotions mere pawns in its nefarious game. Hours meandered by, though time, a mere illusion within the confines of this malevolent citadel, lost all semblance of meaning. Sarah's sanity, a fragile construct, began to unravel, her sleep-starved mind unable to discern the boundaries between reality and the phantasmagorical. Shadows contorted into nightmarish forms, and the walls, once her sanctuary, seemed to close in, constricting her very essence. Just when she teetered upon the precipice of her endurance, a feeble glimmer of dawn breached the fortress of night, filtering through a crevice in the boarded window. With the advent of daylight, the malevolent specter's dominion weakened, its potency diminishing with the inexorable advance of the sun's golden tendrils. Feeble and trembling, Sarah summoned the last vestiges of her strength, shattering a window, ushering in the cleansing radiance of morning. As the sunlight cascaded into the room, a resounding shriek reverberated through the house, an anguished cry that pierced the veil between worlds. With a final, vengeful surge, the malevolent spirit recoiled, vanquished by the burgeoning light. Sarah, her heart a cacophony within her chest, fled the house, her very essence marred by the horrors she had witnessed. The townsfolk discovered her hours later, a mere husk of her former self, huddled upon the doorstep, her eyes wide with the terror of the damned. She emerged from that ordeal irrevocably altered, haunted by the malevolent specter's cruel machinations and the nightmare she had endured. And so, the forsaken house on Elm Street persisted as a bastion of dread, a testament to the night when Insomnia, that cruel mistress, had guided Sarah into the clutches of an unfathomable malevolence. Despite the townsfolk's fervent attempts to bury the tale in the recesses of oblivion, the echoes of that night lingered, a chilling reminder that some nightmares transcend the realm of imagination, seeping into the very fabric of reality.